All right, let's get into feedback for the week. Fridays, at the end of the Friday show, I'll look back at some of the comments I got, posts on Reddit or YouTube comments, emails, all sorts of different things. Certainly because of the escalated and politically tense environment in which we find ourselves today, not only because of the American election, but also because of the forthcoming criminal trials of Donald Trump, the situation with Hamas and Israel, and on and on. The comments this week are particularly weaponized, I might say. And so we'll just dive right into it. And we will start with some critiques, although that's not maybe the right word for them. Steven says, I'm about sick of this communist, wrong spelling, comunist propaganda show. I'm not a communist. I'm just not a communist. I really don't know whether these folks are just using the word communist as a slur or whether they genuinely watch the show and think I'm a communist. Now, the latter is almost more interesting because it really shows, I'm giving a lot of credit here. This is charity, okay? Assuming that Steven is actually weighing in based on something he heard me say, it is very interesting that a respect for human rights, a valuing of plurality and respecting of different perspectives, that these are just basic things which are now considered communist by part of the political milieu of the American right wing. But this is certainly not a communist or communist show. And many folks this week writing in, here's another guy who wrote in over the weekend, now it's the wrong you're, of course. He means you are, but he doesn't include that. It's almost a requirement. You're a socialist, Democrats, communist. You don't hate Trump. You hate your country. Well, I do hate what the country has become. I hate that the country has become a laughingstock because of what MAGA Trumpism has done to the country. That's true. But it's not that I hate the country. It's I'm humiliated by the people that got us to this point. And my socialist, Democrats, communist, it's bad out there, folks. It's very, very bad. Now, then we go from ad hominem insults to conspiracy theories. Here's Rick Smith, who, responding to my latest commentary about the forthcoming criminal trials of Donald Trump, responded simply, he was never indicted. And of course, indicted is misspelled. So this is another interesting one. If I interpret this literally, since indicted spelled like this isn't a thing, it's true. Trump was never indicted with a GH. But I can assure you, he really was indicted with a CT by the criminal system. He's going to face criminal trials or will settle them between now and then. This is genuinely happening. And to those who believe that, I don't know, Trump is still in control of the military or JFK or JFK Jr. or are still alive, and I don't know, to the people that really believe these impossibilities, what would it take to change your mind? Because it's kind of getting to the point where I think the answer is nothing. There is nothing that would change the minds of these folks. Okay, last one of these, also using the incorrect you're a idiot. Biden is a 100% traitor. So wrong you're, first word should be capitalized. Idiot starts with I, so it should be an idiot, and then there should be a period after Biden. So I guess that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I, of course, should be capitalized. 5 grammatical or spelling errors in like a 7-word sentence. It really says a lot. It says a lot about our educational system. But remember, these folks vote. They get to vote anyway, and some of them vote. And that's scary. But it means for every one of us that votes, we cancel out one of those votes. And that's cautious optimism, I guess I would call it. I don't know. Mark wrote in, and Mark says, Biden is old. He's served a long time. He should be able to retire. The problem with Biden is nobody's excited to go out and vote for Biden. We need people to care enough to go out and vote. You know, I don't know that I agree with this. A lot of the polling that we are seeing that is being called disastrous by many Democrats, where, 2/3 of Dems want someone other than Biden to run. Fair. I'm in one of those 2/3. I would love a different nominee than Biden. But you'd better damn well know that come election day, if it's Biden versus Trump or Biden versus DeSantis or any of these authoritarian right-wing lunatics, I'm going to be very excited to go out and vote for Joe Biden to prevent any of those lunatics from becoming president. Oh, but you're voting against them rather than for Joe Biden. No, I'm voting for Joe Biden. And whatever reasons I have for doing that don't really matter. I will be excited to go out there and vote for Joe Biden if it's Biden versus Trump. And similarly, you look at a lot of these polls with dubious results for Biden. It's tied right now. Well, it may be tied, but if indeed Donald Trump is the nominee, there are going to be gobs and gobs of center-left Democrats, progressives, and others who are going to be activated and are going to go out there and do what they can to make sure that Donald Trump or DeSanctimonious or whoever don't get 4 years in the White House. So Biden is old. Okay. He should be able to retire. Sure. But I believe people are going to be highly motivated to vote for Joe Biden. Now, along the lines of polling, a couple of posts about that. Faithlessness East posted to the subreddit. People, stop tripping over Biden polls. Stop tripping Bill Maher, Cenk Uygur, anyone else panicking about Biden's poll numbers. The polls don't factor. The 2024 election is anything but a typical election year. Look at the special elections in very red Kansas and Ohio, far more accurate than any poll, where abortion rights overwhelmingly won. These aren't people who answered a phone call from a poll worker. They voted. Women livid over Roe v. Wade overturned, overwhelmingly came out in force and voted pro-choice. Does anyone think women will be any less livid come November 2024? If men know anything about women, they don't forget. Okay, I don't know what that's about. I'm not worried about voters sitting at home in the next election. January 6th, the MAGA GOP acting like nothing happened, plus their inane buffoonery, has changed everything for most voters. The next election isn't about Joe Biden, the economy, or the cost of gas. It's about the survival of a free America. People will show up and vote. A very similar point to the one I was making, and one I tend to agree with. Also along the lines of polling, Reddit user Ryhalt's Whiskey says Obama's approval rating in September of 2011 was 41%. It didn't stop him from winning. And goes on to say, Obama's job approval rating averaged 41% in September, tied with August for the lowest monthly approval average of his administration. He started his term with 66% and drifted downwards from that point, up a little after the killing of Osama bin Laden. It is too early to predict re-election chances based on approval ratings. Writing 13 months from now, Americans will vote on whether to give. Okay, I think he's talking about, I think there's like confusion now about Biden or something. I don't even know what this. Oh, no, this is a copy. This is from the article or something like that. Okay, needless to say, the point is a good one, which is anybody who is looking just at polling today, the middle to end of October 2023, and saying X or Y is a foregone conclusion in this thing, I don't see it. I think we've got a lot of runway here that's going to affect so many elements of this race. Now, I want to go to something that's going to be controversial for many in my audience. I know it will. This is from Reddit. Hypnospace Outlaw asked the question, has Joe Biden been the best president of the last 50 years? I'm going to be honest. I've been thinking about this more and more. I believe it's completely plausible that Joe Biden has been the best president of my lifetime. And if I decide to take the plunge on this, I will make the case. But what this user says is, listen, Nixon was a psychopathic war criminal. Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon and was totally forgettable. Jimmy Carter was ineffective, although he had some good environmental policies and moral positions. Reagan deregulated everything he could, attacked the EPA, gave tax cuts for the rich, and bloated the national debt and fed China's rise. Bush was a so-so president who failed to realize the peace dividend, looked away from Tiananmen Square to appease business interests, had a liberal politics, and shared many of the flaws of his son. Clinton did deregulation, offshoring, and selling out to China. Bush Jr. was a war criminal who did more tax cuts for the rich. Obama bailed out the bankers on Wall Street, gave good speeches, but didn't do that much. He did do Obamacare, which was a big deal. And Trump, I don't even need to explain why he was the worst. And what this user then goes on to say is, listen, Biden is standing up to Russia, China, and Hamas. He's arming allies to try to deal with them. He's supporting striking union workers like the UAW, fighting Republicans more than Obama or Clinton did. He's not FDR, but he's better than anyone I've mentioned. Sure, America should demand more. Sure, he gives sleepy speeches, but he still seems better than anyone I've mentioned, unfortunately. I am increasingly of the mindset that you can certainly make the case that Joe Biden is the best president of my lifetime. Inflation Reduction Act, more student loan debt forgiveness than any other president, pushing for the rescheduling of cannabis to no longer be Schedule 1, CHIPS Act, vaccine rollout, getting out of Afghanistan. I could go on. And it's not all been done perfectly. There are more things I wish could be done. But especially when you think about Clinton and the great economy, Clinton had the benefit of an explosive dot-com boom that had almost nothing to do with him. And that's one of his greatest so-called accomplishments, which was situational to a great degree. I like Clinton, don't get me wrong. But in thinking through this list, I think it's certainly possible that Biden is the best president of my lifetime. What do you think? I am 140 years old, so there's been a lot of presidents to go through, but let me know what you think. And make sure to write in, leave a comment, info@davidpakman.com. You can always email. We have a tremendous bonus show today and so much more coming your way next week.